Good day, folks. Just another live session. Basically, some of my random sessions that I've been doing lately here and there whenever I can, just to say hello to everyone and stay up to date with what's going on and just to offer a little bit of interactions. Sometimes people have questions that I don't necessarily see in the comments or they don't have a time to ask it. So, especially when it's live, sometimes it's easier. So, I like doing this once in a while. And of course, it keeps everybody up to date. So right now, I'm just going to give it some time here because it's basically Sunday here, 8:39 a.m. So I don't really expect a major crowd of people to just randomly show up without announcing these lives I make. But at least they're archived, so you could always go back and watch them. So I hope everybody is having a beautiful morning today. It's actually warmer here. It's been a bit of snow here in northern Ontario, Canada, and the last few days have been better. We got like near 70 degrees, so that was nice. And today it looks like it's gonna rain, but it's still nice and warm. I got my window open, so I'm getting a nice breeze. And Faraday Energy Research and Development. Good morning. Can't believe you're up this early. Oh yeah, that's right. You're Hamilton, I believe. So it's actually same time zone as me, if I remember correctly. So I'm basically just here saying hello, nothing specific in mind. I wanted to talk a little bit about the PEG cells. People always seem, or any development actually requiring power cells. Everybody is, well, who's into it anyways? They're really interested in that stuff. Um, I personally don't know how far I can take it with what I got here, but I have no problem sharing what I know, anyways. So yeah, Milton, Ontario. Oh, okay. I thought it was Hamilton. I don't know why. I thought that's what you said the other day when we were live. But my apologies if I got it wrong. Sometimes I get it wrong. Maybe it was somebody else who said Hamilton. I just didn't realize there was so many people in Ontario all of a sudden. I actually wanted to, if I'd ever won the lotto one day, moved somewhere around Kitchener, because of the Waterloo stuff. And they say it's the Silicon Valley of the North. So I don't know if there'd be like any surplus stores and that kind of stuff around there to easier accessibilities. And maybe you don't have to wait, a month or two to get parts. I always wondered about that. Maybe like quote unquote retire over there. It takes like 27 years to get a housing application approved for around there, but maybe I can retire out there if I submit something right away. But yeah, I always thought that maybe it'd be easier to get parts just being around there. Surplus store about 40 minutes from my house. Yeah, see that's it, right? I mean, that really helps. Because sometimes, for me, it's being able to walk around sometimes and I know what I need, but then you see like, oh, look at this. These look like barium ferrite magnets. I'm gonna grab a basket of these. And they all a lot of them have sites, but the surplus stores I realize, and I don't blame them, you can like put every part number on the site and some of them try their best effort, but I noticed they all look like 90s style websites where it's basic HTML and they just populate it with what you call that frame charts. But anyways, that all like basic HTML, and I'm like, oh my goodness. But walking into those stores is a different story. Um, I used to go to Active Surplus in Toronto on Queens. It was funny. There was always a guy there. It doesn't matter what time of the year I went. And by the way, we're like 8 hours north if you drive to Toronto. So it's not like I could go there every day. But it didn't matter what time I went. There was always that guy there with the cardboard, you know, looking for money for weed. At least he was honest. But he was always there in front of the door of Active Surplus. It didn't matter. Like a span of maybe 3 years or so that I would go there. That guy was right there with his cardboard looking for money for weed. Uh, yeah. So, reached electronic supply at Brook, Ontario. Oh, I'll have to look into that one. But yeah, like I said, a lot of them, no sites, or if they have a site, it's just a very generic business card type of thing. You really got to walk into those stores, and a lot of them are gone, but there has to be a few of them somewhere, as the one you've mentioned. So, yeah, surplus stuff, definitely interesting. That was just even general stuff, if you want to buy some basic diodes or something. I realized that well, maybe not so much anymore, but in the USA, a Radio Shack used to be pretty good for that. All the generic parts, you just go there, walk in the back of the store, everything was in trays, you pull them out, well organized. But now, I hate having to like basically buy a lot from the ALI Express and those Amazon stores, which are linked to these sellers from ALI Express. It's the same stuff, mostly out of spec. I've noticed I haven't been very lucky with any of the parts. Let's say they'll rate a transistor at 200 volts, they'll start breaking down at maybe 125. It's like I'm trying to do a project, with specifically 150 in mind when I'm switching 200, and then my reverse breaks in the transistor because it's supposed to go 200 volts, and the collector to emitter did not like it at all, and I thought it was something wrong with my circuit. I'm like, why am I short circuiting? I'm barely reaching, I'm at like 130 volts and it's breaking down. It's basically acting like a Zener diode. And I wasn't, and I spent so much time, and then I had like 6 7 of those big transistors. They all did the same thing, and they actually put the generic part number on it, but it's not that at all. So, as I've said before, I've been pretty lucky, taking apart old power amps and things like that with the original Motorola logo on them. They still work good. Hello, everyone. Just saying hello to everyone here as they enter the chat room. So, what did I want to talk about? Power cells. Yeah. Honestly, I'm getting a little bit bored with them because, as you can see, some of the people who have been following me have a whole playlist dedicated. I must have close to 100 videos of. I've basically documented every anomaly and effect and explanation that I could, which is very interesting. Which leads me to conclude it would work better as a semiconductor for something else than actually trying to get it for current. But needless to say, if somebody has the capabilities of building them like supercapacitors, where the dielectric is the peg material and it's paper thin, they actually put up a considerable amount of current. Um, Maybe if I had it, I thought about this, a 3D printer. Somebody really, really wanted to, they could actually do something with the peg cell that would be practical, like right away, without needing like a real high tech kind of lab. It doesn't have to be too complicated. Doesn't even have to be the peg cell. Any power cell technology you want to use, John's, you want to use the quantum energy converters, some people call them, all variants of basically the same thing we're doing. Um, I would say for a market, some practical application that could be used like right away. And I just thought of this because, I live in apartments and we had a power outage not long ago. And, everyone's got emergency lighting, right? And I don't know if you're going to follow me here, but they never work when they're supposed to, because they work with basically a traditional, it's usually an alarm battery, mini lead acid battery. And by the time you actually get the power outage, the batteries are so beat up in there that it has a hard time running that 7-watt light bulb. And after 5-10 minutes, you're back in the dark anyways. So A, for effort, there are regulations and they have to put them, but a lot of them don't get inspected. And the ones that really do work, well, they don't work for very, very long and they're not very bright, right? So I was thinking, keep the same dimensions, but instead of that big battery, you build your specialty peg cells or whatever, power cells, enclose that in there, and then put another half, which are supercapacitors, so that the power cells during their ideal moment will charge the supercap, and the supercap bank, and I've done it before, will run high power LEDs for very long, and lumen wise you get as bright, if not even a little bit brighter than the archaic setup you got with most of these emergency lighting. So what I'm getting at is this could probably be used if you had like some sort of machine or something, 3D printer, build the form. You could build a new emergency lighting, which is the power cells which continuously charge your supercaps. And your supercaps are what's going to turn on. Still got to put a sensor in there to detect, which is pretty easy without actually using the mains energy, but actually breaks the loop when the mains kicks out so that it triggers the emergency lighting. But needless to say, there you go, right? Something that the PEG cell or any kind of power cells would be good for, which would be practical, which wouldn't be dependent on external energy to keep it, backup. It would be a backup, obviously, because you can't depend on the power cell to, indefinitely, but especially the amount you could put into an emergency light. But for a backup, you'll always have that standby 20 minutes of supercapacitor power that'll handle any regular power bump. So, something to ponder about that I was thinking of for those who basically want to get into. Some people are like that, right? They think more of practical, what could I do with this right away versus trying to dig into the theory and the mathematics. I like getting more into the theory, and the development and how to mob. But some people are like, and then sometimes I get criticized with that. You already have something going for yourself. Why are you always continuously shifting away, going somewhere else, trying? It's just to bring up the possibilities. There's not just one device or one method or one way. So it's to inspire people who have a focus in different directions. Some people are more naturally inclined with chemical reactions. More people are more naturally inclined with efficient solar projects. More people are naturally inclined with switching technologies. So just offer a little bit of you know everything. It may not be something good for me, but it might be something good for somebody else who can, with their own ways, put their pieces together and go, this is just what I was looking for to complete my project. Okay, it's not a PEG power cell, but it was an efficient switching circuit. So still, the grand goal here, in my opinion, anyways, still gets fulfilled. I just don't like, in a way, the over Unity community, is overshadowed on YouTube by idiots, unfortunately, who just use the name to have big followings, like in the thousands and millions. And they don't actually contribute at all. They actually make fun of it and try and debunk it. But they're the ones that show up in all the searches, right? When you look for Tesla coils and high voltage and flybacks, because they're the ones who they're doing it for the monetization. So they got all the edited thumbnails of what it looks like their tongue being zapped by the Tesla coil, and that's really funny. That's what people want to see and interact with. I find that completely BS, and it's actually tainting the community, and it puts our stuff really down on the list. And the other half of it is people who like to scam with it. A lot of that going on. And I've got a big mouth, so if I see something even that seems to be a little bit wrong, I dig right into it. And unfortunately, I've offended some people who follow me. But if you're going to use it to deceive people, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. I have to point that out. And that's just who I am, I guess. I don't like too much BS. Torus coil around the peg cell. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, that might be able to help with those. The peg cell has all those random transients. So yeah, that could be interesting for sure. Take pictures of yourself in amazement with your mouth. Yeah, exactly. That's what they do, and that generates, I guess, that's the pretty thumbnail and whatever. And I don't want to. I could spend all these hours on editing and making it look good, but then where's the substance? I want to get right to the substance. But like I said, in this field, it's overshadowed by all of the fancy stuff that leads to nothing. And then there's other people who claim to be the experts. I don't know if you guys know him, that Ashton guy. Oh my goodness. He thinks he's Fox News or something, but always knows every answer, but everything is behind some DNA agreement, non-disclosure agreements. When they start talking like that, I start tuning out. But it gets annoying, I find, that they always have something great to say. Only they're the ones that it's like, please. So a lot of what I'm getting at is there's a lot of ego lifting going on in this. I've got all the answers, but I won't tell you anything. But keep following me because I've got everything to say about it without actually saying anything about it. Remind you of anyone? Sounds a lot like politics, doesn't it? Sometimes, maybe because it is in a way. So yeah, having to bust through all of that sometimes is a challenge. But then some people listen and some people have thanked me for, and that's all I want to do is just share what I know, explain what I've learned, and then go ahead and do what you want with it. But don't scrutinize me for something, that, it's not my fault the peg cell works the way the peg cell works, If you're going to start getting all fussy because some people claim it's got electric properties, well, guess what? That's not my fault. I'm just pointing it out. So you're always going to get scrutiny. I understand that. And it is what it is. And yeah, maybe I should get into doing lives more, talking to people, um, podcast and that sort of thing. But I think it's my attention focus. After 3 hours there, I get very, I got to go and start working on something. I can't just keep talking about it. But some people are good at that. They can just talk for hours and hours and, ping pong ideas back and forth. I like doing that. But as you see, I start struggling like it's been, what, 18 minutes and I'm already, what can I say next? So just joking, please don't. No, I don't want to start taking pictures of my mouth open. It's not the pretty mouth, anyways, so I wouldn't want to show it off that much. Half my teeth are missing. That was my fault, though. Got really depressed maybe 10 years ago and neglected. I'm okay now, but for like 2, 3 years, you're neglecting medical and everything, when you're in a depression. But much better now. Everything is all up to date. I do everything I got to do, but doesn't stop the fact that I still lost half my teeth. That's okay. Just got to eat slower. If I'm still looking to move, well, obviously I'm always looking to move, but that's a general statement. Wishing it and doing it is a different. What bothers me here is the cold and the long winters, especially with the Parkinson stuff. I get a little draft, and I don't know how to explain it. I freeze, not freeze of cold, but um, stiffen right up, and it gets into my neck, and then I'm walking like Mr. Burns, from The Simpsons, and I just can't handle it, and but it falls down to a money thing, but nothing stops me from applying through housing to go anywhere I want in Ontario. But like anywhere else, probably even in the USA, when you apply to go through um, geared to income, essentially housing, you've got like almost 30-year waits, especially in highly developed areas. So I'm 38 years old now. I'd have to, start looking into it literally now and apply where I'd like to go so that by the time I'm 50, 60, if I make it, at least I won't be in agony in the cold during those years, right? I'll be able to be in Hamilton or, Kitchener or something, along close enough to the border that's much more, I would say, habitable. This is fine up north, if you've got, you're in the mining, you're in the forest industry, that sort of thing for work, right? Because there's a premium for being out here if you're into that kind of work. And most of these places are all high paying union jobs. So I get it if it's your income, your living, your specialty. But if you're a regular person or you're retired, really, I mean, you have to be crazy to actually want to voluntarily, for no reason at all. I'm dealing here with $400 a month January electric bills just for the heating. And we're not in the Arctic, but we're pretty close. And for someone who's on the pension, it's quite something. So, I mean, it's not fun in the summer. Like right now, it's still nice. We just got a few bad days, but my last bill was like $120. So it's manageable in the in the summer, but in the winter time it really gets nutsies. So let's just say it's a good thing I'm not a big eater, as you can see me. I don't find joy in eating. So I only eat as much as I need to basically survive. So it's a good thing because, I wouldn't have money to do the wine and cheese kind of thing. That's for sure. Place in Guelph converting an old outdoor education school. Nice. Yeah, that could be interesting for sure. Holland has terrible winters as well. I'm not looking forward to it. Yeah, I don't know if it's anything like we get like minus 40s, and I'm talking about like minus 40 Fahrenheit. Not every day there, obviously, but it's not atypical to have an evening that it'll fall down, like especially January or February. And I'm not much of an outdoor. I am like for health and fitness in the summer, but in the winter, no way. So I stay indoors. It gets pretty long, so keep myself busy with the projects and the research. But then I get annoyed, right? Because sometimes I'm working on a project, I want to use an earth ground in the middle of January. Try and run an earth ground in the middle of January in 4 feet of snow and ice and a frozen ground. It's pretty well, wait until the spring. So sometimes I get really like, ugh, I want to try something, but I need an isolated ground. I can't use the building ground, and easier said than done. And we take the small things for granted, right? I'm talking about a ground. Well, for 6 months, I don't have access to a real ground. So I have to like time all my projects that I know that's going to use a real ground during the summertime because I know during the winter is like no chance. Even experimenting with earth batteries, I wanted to do that, but we have such, I don't even know what that would do in the winter once everything freezes over. That would be interesting test. But some earth batteries at like minus 40 below frozen ground. That would be the real test, right? Yeah, greenhouse or that's a good idea. Would look a bit silly, but you do what you gotta do, right? Screw what the others think. If they wanna give me $400 to pay for the bill, then fine, I'll take the greenhouse down, right? Mm, give them a choice. Don't like the eyesore, pay for the fix. Yeah, so here I am. We are Sunday, so it's pretty slow day for everyone, I expect here. Looks a little silly. Yeah, it does, but whatever works. I mean, I've sort of seen, lately some high-end houses based on that. They make it look more like part of the house, obviously. So they got like huge roof. They almost look like churches, but really it's a house built in a it's just it's a small structure built in a bigger shell structure, right? So yeah, but they just make it look prettier, if you've gotten all the millions to build a mansion out of the concept. It doesn't have to look like a greenhouse, but yeah, they are actually doing that in the modern days. They're building mansions that way. So today is going to be a quiet day. I was hoping for a nice day. It's warm, but it's rainy. So we're not going to spend some time outside today. I've been cleaning up a lot around here trying to get my lab ready. Was going to start experimenting with some microwave interactions, then I realized there's something going on with my main module for the high voltage. So I got to take a look at that, and I haven't been too motivated. I'm like, am I going to fix it, or am I just going to buy a new one, or build? I've got a million transistors here. Got the high frequency coils I bought like from ALI Express a year ago in a little bag. So I guess it wouldn't be as I want anyways. There was this thing on eBay, right? These it looked like a tube amp, but it was actually a high voltage power supply with vacuum tubes. I was really interested for like $250. Just because you want to have some analog stuff sometimes when you do this kind of, especially just to drive it for experimentation, because you don't want the digital equipment to go bonkers with the radiant energy and all that stuff, and transistors and switches and CMOS and all that tends to go a little flunky, especially if you don't have that perfect lab settings to isolate everything. So that would have been a nice little power transformer, all tube base, rack mount, over 1000 volts, just to drive, for interaction, so I don't have to worry about beating up, semiconductors just for sweeping, you know. So that's where I am now, sort of trying to figure things out. So many things on the list. I think 3D printer would have to be like, I keep thinking, well, I'm going to run into a group, a club, a person that has it, and just go from there. But it's not happening anytime quickly. So, and they have dropped. It's not like they're $4,000 or $5,000 anymore. I don't know if they're any faster. I was specifically kind of turned off that you have to wait like 24 hours to build like a small piece, but I think we're over those days now. Nice. Old man builds. Oh my goodness, everyone is on. It's just like old man builds. This must be like 6 a.m. Don't you ever sleep? And hi, by the way. Nice to see you here, but I just realized that it's pretty late there, really. I mean, early, unless I have it the other way around. No, it would be like 6 a.m., no? Up at up at 2 a.m. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. I mean, yeah, 6 a.m. That's what I thought. I usually get up at 6 a.m., but I'm in no interacting unless I had a dream and I gotta write it down and I go to the whiteboard and I hope people don't see that I just got up and because I'll forget it. That's the thing, right? If I get this great dream with all these ideas, when I get up, you feel like, oh, no big deal. I have it all. I know it. I'm going to get to it later on. The next thing you know, after lunch, I don't remember a thing. So I have to stays in short-term memory, right? But it fools you because on the time you feel, you can't really tell the difference between what's a short-term memory and what's a long-term memory. It just feels like a legit memory. So it's like, I'll get to it later. But I've had to slap myself on the hand after, realizing that I forgot something after. So that's why I put the camera, I turn it on, record, and I just start writing whatever as it's fresh. And then at least it's recorded. So if I forget, at least the information is still captured. So yeah, unless it's that, I don't like going on because you're all woozy and still have you still got the crust in your eyes. Hello, everyone. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, or whatever. The moment is all there. Memory is the part of it. Yeah, And I was stubborn because, like I said, sometimes it feels just like a normal, regular memory. And it's like, okay, I'm really tired. I'm going to have my shower and everything, and then I'll make my video. No big deal. Well, guess what? By the time I've done that, what was it again? So now I know better. Um, I always thought that I'd have like a recorder, but then I said, screw to the recorder, I'm just gonna go and make the video out of it while it's fresh. Because, if I record it like on tape or whatever, or an app that these days, not an actual recorder, but, record it, then I just have the audio portion. Then I'm trying to figure out, maybe I get lost, so it's like, it's better to be like, here's the visual, here's the example, here's what I saw. And permanent marker from the forehead. Yeah. Well, it's like I said, it's deceptive, like, and doesn't even have to be any special dream, anything at all. When you dream, right, you wake up, and even if you have a nightmare and you've got all of the sweats and everything, you get to it, and 2 3 minutes later, it's like no big deal anymore, and then it just kind of fades away. Unless it's something you have to consciously focus on it because it was something that captivated you, a memory of a loved one, a lost one. Then those dreams will stick because the emotion got you to like think about it as you're brushing your teeth, and oh man, I saw my father that I haven't seen for 25 years, and he told me this. You're the one who's consciously transferring it from short term into long term based on the event that captivated you, that moved you, right? So, under those scenarios, yeah, you're going to remember, but just the general, because we dream all the time, but we just don't remember. So, yeah, exactly. Your brain waves go, they tweak back to our reality real quick. That's exactly what it is. It, every state of mind is a different frequency, brainwave wise. So when you're dreaming, especially in the real, once you get into the outer body and the lucid, the astral, whatever you want to call it, you're getting into the very high, and it's infinite, by the way. So that's why, there's no real ending to it. But the higher yeah, exactly. The higher you are in the brain waves, the interactions, by the time you come back here, it seems, more of a distant dream. It feels more of a surreal, more of, I totally get that. And I feel it too, that the higher you are, the more difficult it is to bring the information back here. Totally. Totally. And it's weird because when you're there, it feels like here, you know. But as soon as you snap out of it, everything is just like disassembling all of a sudden, like in real time. And you're like, no, 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 don't run away. I need you. It's like packets of information that are just fragmenting you. And you're trying to catch them all in a net. No, 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 no. Oh yeah, Monroe Institute tapes. I was all part of that when I was a teenager. I was part of the teen program. I was doing that before the Monroe Institute. I didn't even know what it was called before I started researching it in my teens because I was like 6 years old, and I would naturally have these out of body experiences, and I thought it was normal. So I never talked about it, right? Until I'm 10 years old, 10 or 11, a lot of friends, and and you're just whenever you float out of your body, I like breathing underwater because it's weird. And then they're all looking at me like, what? Well, when you think it's normal and you don't know it's not towards others, right? And it's like, every time I see myself get out of my body, I just, for fun, I'll fly and then go in the lake and then breathe because it's weird because it's like a fish, right? And you got the sensation of, it's the thrill. I like breathing underwater because I can't do that here. And then they're all looking at me like, what are you? And it was at that point that the internet was new at like that age. It was dial up and really slow. But then I started, going on the search engines, and I didn't even know what it was called. So it was like, I was searching things like dreaming awake and trying to, and then finally, got into all of that. Oh, it's lucid dreaming, it's astral projection, and how some people spend, lifetimes trying to, induce the state. So when I found out, of course, I enhanced it and started the meditation exercises and all that to be able to control it. And I was very, very involved in that in my teen years, let's just say. And then moved on and got into the Rosicrucians. I still have my badge somewhere. Was going to get into the Freemasons, but I got a little personal reasons that I basically started understanding what they were all about and what they were doing, and basically framing a lot of what we already know, but for their own purposes. So I didn't want to participate in that. So I sort of lost interest because once you start understanding frequency, vibration, and all that kind of stuff, the same way Tesla does, you really don't need these people anymore in your life to tell you how, You could just use your own common sense and your own experience and your own logic and essentially come to the same conclusions which these Freemasons already have, as above, so below, which is their ultimate one, which means that there's a microscopic world and the micro and the macro. Well, guess what? In quantum physics, we already know that, I don't need to pay a membership of crazy money, in the Masonic temples and buy my outfits and pay my membership fees and all of that. Why pay membership fees for something that I already know, that I actually work with every day in my projects? These energy systems are what they interact with in their own ways. So I went, you know what? Not for me. And I don't like a closed. I want to reveal everything, the relationship of frequency and vibration and all that stuff. I want to get into it. Resonance. It shouldn't be something sacred that you keep under the cover just for your own purposes. They use a lot of old-fashioned techniques like resonance through acoustic chambers and that sort of things. So that's why their temples are very strategically, the architect matters a lot because it's an ancient form of resonance. But at the end of the day, folks, they're doing the same thing we're doing, but they won't tell you that. It takes a whole life membership, of getting through the materials and the degrees and the initiations and all of that. And then maybe if you're lucky before you die, you'll get the next one. Once you get into the Knight Templars and all of that, then it starts getting revealed to you that all you've done all of your life was basically just the BS run to get you ready, and all the symbolisms change the meanings, and it's like you realize that all you did was BS. But then at that point you're so far into it and invested financially, emotionally, lifelong, that you're going to keep it a secret. You're not going to, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's like, oh man. But yeah, been there, done that. Could write a book on it, but I'm more focused on this stuff, keep it transparent, um, make the world a better place. Don't keep it a secret. Yeah, a lot of Elites. That's exactly it, and they think they understand the ancient secrets, but it's all the stuff we're doing, in their own ways. They give it a mystical, they give it a mystical wallpaper to it, but it's the same stuff, the same beliefs. It's quantum entanglement or resonance chambers and that sort of thing. Um, Brainwave tuning. Again, once you get into it, it's fascinating actually. And you think that if they were really, these are human beings like everyone else, and it's weird that they try, all these years anyway, to keep all of these rituals secret and everything, because you want to make the world a better place, because at the end of the day, you're going to die too. You're going to end up being dust yourself, and so are your kids, so are your family, so is everyone else. So what good is it keeping this all secret if, let's say we could, for example, reduce our pollution and make the planet a better place, if we're gonna die, you're gonna die too, and your kids are we're all gonna die, and this is not just an earth thing. You have to look at the great picture. I'm surprised that if there are alien species, they haven't, disintegrated our planet by now, because there's a resonant factor to all of this. So if you resonate junk, you're gonna start interfering something further down the line, on a planetary scale, on a universal scale. Everything vibrates and is triggered by vibration and heat. So you start putting in all these impurities in a perfectly balanced system. The system's going to want to balance itself out. And let's say you got a super advanced civilization that's out here that's getting out of balance because of all the crazy shit we're doing here. Don't you think they're going to do something to, if they can, just to save themselves? So in a way, you know, it's counterproductive to keep everything secret, I think. I get the evil part of it, but you know, at a certain point, you got to control your population and your evil ones properly, and don't let that hinder, you know, progression for mankind. Yeah, these they call them cults, but like Bedini said, and they're right, looking at it at a quantum perspective, all these religious wars and everything, they're all fighting over the same God. And in that aspect, he's right, Um, but look at what kind of, we're so focused on all these conflicts instead of using the collective consciousness to focus on something better. But control and greed and everything will always do that to some point. But now with technology, as much as they've given us anyways, that they allow us to use, in the mainstream. We have access to the internet, and as and social media, as regulated and censored as it is, it's that much more of an outlet that we didn't have, 40, 50 years ago. So now people like me and you and all of us are starting to get together like this, even if it's just small crowds of 1,000 or so. Word's going out. People are doing these experiments. They're finding out for themselves. They're coming up with their own variants. And, that's what, it's getting out there, So at least we can do that. It's not big. It's not huge. I wouldn't even consider it a movement at this point, but it's a lot more than what you had 40 years ago. It's a start. And, they can't shut us all up. And I'm sure they don't like it when we're discussing all of their secrets in the open, especially when it costs them thousands of dollars, for them to have found out the hard way, essentially. So that's the difference between honesty and the corruption, right? Where you got one system that's doing it for control and greed, while you got another one who's playing with the same interactions, but they're doing it to better the world and to be open with it. But totally two, attitude wise, totally two different groups, right? But they're going for the same thing essentially, but completely different outlooks. Essentially one would want to wipe out the other if they could. That's how bad it is. So yeah, wow. 45 minutes. When you start talking and when people start interacting, we sort of, that's good though, random chit chat. Let's just see which page we're all on. And yeah, some people have said in the chat, there are US elections coming up, very important. I don't want to be political, but and say it's pretty obvious probably which side I'm on, but it's very important for the US people to vote because it's affecting Canada as well. And we have a lot of problems in our politics. And the outcome of these US elections will determine what's going to happen for Canada and many countries as well. So please go out and vote. It's very important. And yeah, I mean, that's where we're at. Yeah, like I say, I don't want to get political, but it's pretty obvious. I don't want to say to who to vote for because that's not the focus on my channel. But everybody who has common sense obviously knows, especially when it's for our energy research purposes. One side is going to want to squash it all for their agenda. So, with that said, folks, I guess I'm gonna say goodbye for now. And this was just a random chat. And if people like these, if I keep getting good feedback, I'll try and do these more, and maybe try and time them. Like advertise. I'll be going on at 6 the day before or something, so people can come. And maybe I don't have the hang of the streaming software, like some people do with the podcast, but maybe get a few people to talk myself. I have one guy who was willing to talk. He comments on my channel once in a while, and he does Bedini stuff. Maybe he'll want to come in and explain one of his Bedini circuits like he wanted to do one time. I just wasn't set up for that. MK something. I don't have his nickname right here off. I don't want to say it wrong there, but I'm sure he would come on. I'd have to ask him. But yeah, anyways, one thing at a time. And with that said, everyone have yourselves all a great day, and don't get yourselves in trouble. And keep experimenting, keep researching, and keep exploiting whatever we can. And have yourselves all a great day. And thank you all for your support.